This is how you shop for benefits using a broker. So, first things first, you need to choose a broker. Then you need to choose what services you need. Then you need to choose a carrier, a plan, and what you can afford, right? So let's go ahead and backtrack. So, how do we choose a broker? First thing is, people think that their broker is so special, right? Like, oh, yeah, I've been working with this guy for years. He gets me the best rates. I'm really going to be loyal to him. At the end of the day, the rates are the rates. The broker's not the one creating the plans. The broker is not the one who is funding the plans. The broker is literally just the agent that's getting you from what you articulate you want to the carrier so they can assess you as a risk. And he is the one helping you with that process. That's why when you sign a broker or record letter, all that stuff, all the terms, if you look at all the terms and conditions, it's really about they're authorized to negotiate on your behalf. They're authorized to help give you information on your rates, your renewal. They can get information on who's on or off the plans. Why? Because they're there to help you transact that deal. There's nothing it's not the broker that's actually making the plans or the rates. It's the carrier. So you think they're special, really they're all the same as far as what they can do. Now, what makes them different and separates the good, the bad, the ugly from the great ones is how much work do they put into taking the time to accurately take the information that you give them to the carrier so that you are represented in the most accurate light. It's not about getting the cheapest rate. It's about getting the most accurate rate. That's how you avoid these high renewals. And if you ask, anybody who's worked with us that's come in with high renewals, and then now after coming through our process and they see lower renewals, they're going to tell you that the main reason they like to have the low renewals is because you can predict the cost year over year. I mean, if you start to spend $500,000 a year and all of a sudden you get a 20% increase, it's $100,000 more dollars for the same exact plan. That's ridiculous. And that $100,000 didn't have to be that way. It just didn't. It could have been $50,000, which is still 10%. It could have been $25,000. It could have been flat. It could actually be that, hey, maybe we need to switch up the plans and have a better strategy, which goes back to, how do you choose your services? You don't just look at the carriers and just arbitrarily say, hey, I'm just going to renew. You want to look at my team, my employees, what is it that they need? And ultimately the employee benefits, it's not about getting the right carriers and this and that. It's about getting the right services, and the carriers have to make sure that those services are available to the people. If, your top sales executive, or your top, data scientist needs access to Dr. Stein because that's who him and his kid have been working with for a specific, chronic disease they have, then you need to make sure that that person's in that network. They don't care if it's Cigna, if it's UHC, if it's Aetna, if it's whoever. So having the services down and understanding the application of it, that's the next most important piece. So first thing you want to do is you want to choose your broker. Your broker should help you choose the services. Once you choose the services, right, how do we do that? We want to look at what's our utilization. And again, that's why you want to choose the broker. If you have a lazy broker that's just going to send you the renewals and just forward an email for you, well, then you're not going to know how to take the utilization information if it's available. If the carrier says it's not available, then does that insurance broker have enough experience to know in this market, in this industry, when you see these types of renewals, why is it that you're potentially renewing? Is it if you have a young demographic that looks like, hey, maybe there's a lot of people using, prescriptions. Maybe there's a lot of people who are, in childbearing years. And we didn't really put together the right game plan for that, right? You got to be able to look at all those little things. And that's why the broker is so important. They need to be able to take the information, the data, the insights from the carrier and help you figure out what services are needed. And then after you pick the services, that's when you choose the carrier, because that stuff is subject to change. 1 year we might set up a group in Florida and there's a carrier there and it works out great. But then the next year that carrier decides to leave that market. Why? I don't know. Maybe there was an acquisition. Maybe a bigger company bought them for some technology that they had and they want to apply it somewhere else. So now they're pulling out of that market. There's all kinds of things that can happen with the different economic conditions, right? So that being the case, it's so important when you're shopping for benefits with the broker that you pick the broker first. The wrong way to do it is to go around and say, you know what, I'm going to have this broker, broker A. You're going to go out and shop Aetna, Blue Shield, the PEOs, all that. Go out there and find me a bunch of quotes. Then I'm going to go to this broker over here, broker B, And same thing, here's the RFP, because I need to shop 3 different brokers. No, that's a waste of time. And the carriers also know it's a waste of time, because now the carriers are sitting here putting together quotes for the same client. The same client. That's actually sometimes how you end up getting not that great of quotes, quite frankly, because now you have multiple people representing the information, maybe multiple ways, right? So if they come back and say they do have different rates, whoever was the most accurate and gave the most true data and information to the carrier, they're the ones who would actually produce the lowest renewal likely. Why? Well, because the carrier had the opportunity to look at the truth, and the carrier also has a clear understanding from the broker articulating your conversation around the services and the employee demographic, what you guys are actually going to use and need. They'll recommend a plan. They'll look at your budget. They'll help you figure out what's the most cost-effective solution, so that you can not have a big surprise next year where it's like, great, we took all this time, we had the great plan design, everything's put together, boom, surprise, 35 days before your next renewal next year. All of a sudden I have like a renewal for 25% and I got to redesign my whole strategy in less than 35 days. That's ridiculous, right? And part of it is having the education of how to choose your broker. So again, like when you're working with the brokers, it's not the rates that make them special. No, like it's just not. It's not all the carriers they have access to. That's part of it. It's part of it. But a good broker, a great broker, one that's really going to support you and help you all along the way, they're the ones who take the time to understand, how do you make money? How does your team make money? How do these people make money for you? What are the risks that would keep them from being out of work from their personal life? And what services do they need to know that are taken care of with their family, themselves, their medications? How do they rest assured that they don't have to worry about taking care of their health, so that they can show up to work happy, healthy, and focused on the job at hand? I mean, that's the whole point of benefits anyhow. If you don't have a good broker, you're not going to be able to have that type of alignment, synergy, and it's going to cost you a lot of money. A lot of money. In some of our other videos, we're going to go over the financial model of, how do you actually like look at renewals year over year, because it acts like compound interest. You get a 9% renewal this year and then a 9% renewal next year. That's 9% and then 9% on top of the 9%. And then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So if you don't control it now and you're not accurately portraying the information to the carriers, it's going to catch up to you. It's going to cost you a lot of money. And then pretty soon you're going to have really bad benefits at uncompetitive rates, and you're not going to be able to pay your people top quality. And then the quality of your people that you have, it's going to go down. Why? Because you can't afford to hire the people that you need in the seats for your group to be the best employer of choice. So all this stuff really does matter. It really does. It is an important decision. So before you sign a broker of record, before you go out and have everybody shopping different rates and things, take some time to think about, who should be my broker? What do I want out of a broker? What do I need out of a broker? What kind of person, if you were interviewing for a broker job on your staff, what would that look like? What would you want the job rec to look like, right? Super broker, right? And then interview to that and get as close to it as possible. And then from there, I think you'll have a better experience shopping benefits with the broker, rather than, getting high renewals and just forwarding a message and possibly getting an invite to play golf every once in a while. So like at the end of the day, choosing your broker is super important. And that's the first step if you're going to choose your benefits. You want to choose a brilliant broker that you like.